22. That is how old I am. So obviously I have to do something to celebrate this. So I figured I'd make a list of some of the things I like, in no particular order, ranging from video games to movies, animated and live action, and then finally TV shows to cap it all off. If you guys have your own list, tell me in the comment section below. Now let's get started. Here are some of my favorite video games. Yeah, as much as I rag on this series a lot, I still have a little bit of love for it. And in case you guys want to know what my ranking is, it goes like this. Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, then Kingdom Hearts. I know many people won't agree with that ranking, but I don't care. 2 being the best because I think it has some of the best combat, cutscenes, boss fights, worlds, and story beats. Yes, this is the installment where things get a little too convoluted, and there were some boss fights that were hit or miss. The same thing goes for the worlds, but I still think it's pretty great. And I will forever stand by the opinion that 2 serves as a better send-off to the series. 3 being second because I honestly think the combat is some of the best in the series. It's flashy, it gives you everything from the previous games all rolled into one, it is visually breathtaking to look at, it has 2 Pixar worlds that most people wanted to see, and for the most part I actually had fun with it. And I think there were some story beats that honestly hit pretty hard, somewhat, if you know everything from the previous games. But this game has a lot of issues. And I mean a lot of issues. It wastes the potential of some of its characters, there were plenty of Disney worlds that were downright awful, the combat can get pretty bland and boring at times, it is way too goddamn easy, there's nothing to do in the post-game, you have to pay $30 to get the Remind DLC, and the story is an ultimate clusterfuck. But overall, it's a decent little package, that's why it's slap dab in the middle. And 1 being last because although this is the one that started it all, it is very dated by today's standards. There were some Disney worlds that were flat out boring as fuck to play through, some of these boss fights were not great to fight, the platforming and camera are an absolute bitch, and that's it really. But I have a soft spot for it because I think this has the best story due to its simplicity. I think the characters were handled pretty well for their first outing, the boss fights that aren't Disney based were pretty fun to fight, and if there's one thing that this game does better than the later entries, it's being challenging as hell. Seriously, I got my ass handed to me multiple times. You know, for as many issues as Kingdom Hearts has, I still love it for the childhood that it gave me, and although it can get pretty annoying with its convoluted story and its talks of light, darkness, and friendship, I still have a soft spot for it. Now all we have to do is wait patiently for the day Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out.
Oh, would you look at that? Another year's passed. Oh well, I don't care.
I'm pretty sure everybody has heard of this Italian plumber's name. Mario has definitely made his splash in the gaming industry. Whether it's Super Mario Bros., Mario Kart, Super Mario Party, or Super Smash Bros., we've all played a Mario game at least once in our lives. Here are some of my favorites. Believe it or not, I haven't played this one before. I've only played it a couple of times when I went over to my sister's house, but I've played it to completion when it was released on the Nintendo Switch, and I can say it was a pretty fun time. I also like some of the challenges, like the Speed Comet Challenge, the Time Limit Challenge, the Purple Coin Challenge, the One Hit Challenge, etc. And in some of these levels, they give you the chance to play as Luigi. I really love the music in this game. It is so good. Sometimes I turn on my Switch just so I can listen to the music. Honestly, it's a crime they didn't include Super Mario Galaxy 2, because I remember that game being freaking great, even though it's just DLC. Whether it's New Super Mario Bros. For the DS or New Super Mario Bros. U, these 2D side-scrollers are pretty fun to play. Going from world to world is always a fun time. Whether it's in a forest level, the desert level, the snow level, or Bowser's level. It's a lot of fun to travel and kick some bad guy butt. This is another solid Mario game, but I only played this one a handful of times. The one I remember playing consistently was Mario Kart on the DS, and that game was fucking great, especially the challenges. If I remember correctly, those challenges were goddamn hard. But Mario Kart 8 is pretty great. The different levels were fun to race around. I like how it flips your wheels whenever you're driving upside down or side to side. And I like how they implement gliders into the mix. It's a great racing game, even though I prefer the DS version, but that's just due to nostalgia. The first game I ever played on the Switch, and let me tell you something, it lived up to the hype. I poured so many hours into this game that it's not even funny. On my last playthrough, I managed to get 995 moons. I don't have the proof on me sadly because that was on my last Switch. I have the Switch OLED model now, and right now I have a total of 532 moons. Yes, I know that's significantly less than what I had, but I'll get up there soon. I bet. Remember how I said the music from Mario Galaxy was so good? Well, guess what? The soundtrack in Odyssey blew my goddamn mind. Playing this game is simply a joy, especially when you're trying to track down the moons. They hide them in very creative and clever ways. I also love the costumes that you can put on Mario. The different worlds that you get to explore in this one are beautiful and vibrant. Also, when I saw this dragon for the first time, I thought this was a different game. But no, it's a Mario game. It's just jarring to see this realistic dragon paired up with these Mario characters. Speaking of playing, I think Mario controls perfectly in this game. It goes to show how far Nintendo has come, especially when you play past Mario games and compare it to this Mario game, it's perfect. This is easily my favorite Mario game on the Switch so far. I haven't played Super Mario Wonder, so who knows, maybe that game will be better than this game.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big fan of fighting games, but I thought Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was pretty fun. Honestly, it's what got me into fighting games like Mortal Kombat. It's really fun to play each character and test out their movesets, from Mario to Sora. Also, it's crazy to see how many characters got into this title alone. Steve, Banjo-Kazooie, Sephiroth, Pyra, Mithra, Kazuya, and Sora. I also love some of the stages that are respectfully adapted from the character's universe. The music is also top notch, and all around, it was pretty fun. It has cool stuff. I like it. If you want your kid to get into fighting games that aren't Mortal Kombat because of how graphic and fucked up that franchise can be, I mean, seriously, have you seen some of these deaths? Like, what the fuck? Give them Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's child friendly and it's fun. If these games are anything to go by, it's that anything Mario touches is going to be a great time. Yeah, I know. Me. The guy who made a top 6 worst Cuphead boss fights video loves Cuphead? Yes, I do. This game and the delicious last course was awesome. The boss fights are really fun and engaging, and even those boss fights that are difficult and frustrating to the point where you want to pull out your goddamn hair are pretty fun in their own right. I love the animation in this one. Kudos to the animators, you guys did an amazing job of capturing the spirit of 1930s cartoons. And it's not just the animation that's great, the music kicks ass as well. Like Super Mario Odyssey, it's a joy to watch. But to play, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But it's like what self-entitled dickheads say. There's no such thing as bad games, only bad players. This game makes me feel like I'm playing as Spider-Man. There, I said it. Compared to other Spider-Man games, I find this one to be way better. For one, he's not just swinging out of the goddamn sky this time. I like how they took the time to make it look like he's swinging from building to building. I thought some of the missions were fine, whether it's doing various jobs for Harry, trying to find some pigeons for a hobo, helping out civilians one way or another. You know, Spider-Man shit. And there are also collectibles with some of these backpacks that Peter left lying around. The story itself is pretty decent, there were some nice jokes, there are some nice emotional beats that I appreciate, and there were some nice side characters. Not all of them, but there were some nice side characters.
We broke up because you wouldn't stop treating me like a baby. Don't do this, MJ. Don't do that, MJ. Oh, that's too dangerous, MJ. I may not have super spider powers, but I'm not made out of glass.
Shut the fuck up!
The gameplay is not entirely perfect though, because it gives you these moments where you have to play as either Miles or MJ, and let me just say, these stealth sections suck complete balls. Why the fuck are we playing as these basic ass humans when we can play as motherfucking Spider-Man? So yeah, it's a very solid package. I haven't played the DLCs, and honestly, I'm hesitant to do so because there's a character that is insufferable to watch. But I have played Miles Morales, and let me tell you something, the quality of these games has noticeably slipped as the series continues. The amount of glitches and bugs I ran into while playing Miles Morales has made me very hesitant to want a Spider-Man 2, even though it looked pretty promising. And I heard from some people that Spider-Man 2 is as glitchy and buggy as Miles Morales, which is why I haven't played it yet. And also seeing fans get pissy that it didn't win an award at the Game Awards also makes me pretty iffy to play it. But the first Spider-Man game was pretty great. Yep, The Last of Us 1. Not the series, not the sequel, just the first one. Look, the first one is not all that perfect anyway. The gameplay is pretty boring and not that interesting, the AI is pretty fucking stupid, and it can get pretty repetitive after a while. But if there's one thing that kept me invested, it's the characters and their relationships. I really feel like that's what the first game is all about, relationships and life as a whole. Every single character is well written, some of them better than others, but they still have a purpose in the story. From Joel to Ellie to Tess to Bill to Sam to Henry to Tommy to Marlene, every single character is great, and they feel more human in this game compared to its sequel. And if there's one thing that this game does better, it gets you to feel for its characters in non-manipulative ways. I feel like the characters were relatable in this one, especially Ellie herself. She was interesting, quirky, goofy, witty, and lovable in this one. Not dark and brooding, like how she is in the sequel. Joel is smart, cautious, tough, and pretty awesome. Not dumb, stupid, and a weak plot device for the sequel. All in all, this should have been a one and done. Some people agreed that this never should have gotten a sequel. I know some booger-eating dipshits are gonna say, I don't speak for everyone, but even some big YouTubers that you probably watch agree that this never should have gotten a sequel after playing it.
I said from the get-go, Last of Us should have never had a sequel. Way before I played the game, way before the leaks, I said it's a dumb fucking idea. There was no way they could follow up the beauty of the first Last of Us narrative. No chance.
Another thing is that they really fucked up the ambiguity of the ending. For me, it was more interesting to hear what other people's interpretation of the ending was, because for me, that's what makes art art. Hearing what other people's thoughts are is way more fascinating, rather than the creator telling their fans, oh, the ending is really about this, and if you thought otherwise, you're a fucking retard.
Boy, everyone is stupid except me.
Okay, despite my ranting, I still think this game is very solid, as long as I pretend the second game doesn't exist and what we have is a stupid parody. I still love some of the emotional beats, I love the character interactions, and I feel like as a whole, it's still a very strong story. But anyway, let's move on to the next number. Oh, also, Neil, do not make a third Last of Us game. Please, for the love of God, for all things holy, do not make a third installment to this franchise. You already fucked it up. Just leave it. Keep it as a duology. Okay? Do not make a trilogy of this. Okay, unlike the other games, I only remember playing this in my childhood, and I have to say, from my experience, it was pretty awesome and creative. I really enjoy playing as this little sack person, kind of reminds me of that movie 9. The levels are cool and creative, and it's fascinating to traverse. And if there's one thing that made me love playing this game constantly, it was getting those little stickers that were hard to get. Because with those stickers, you can decorate your hub and you can customize your sack person. And there were some challenging boss fights now that I remember correctly. I think 2 was a little harder, but 1 has its fair share of difficult bosses. I know they're probably not as challenging to die-hard gamers out there, but for me, these bosses kept kicking my ass. Now I know what you're thinking, how come I said the Little Big Planet duology instead of trilogy? Because believe it or not, there was a third Little Big Planet game, but I don't like the third one. Although it was fun to play as these different characters, it was a glitchy mess for me. I could barely get through a level without it spazzing the fuck out, so that's why I think 1 and 2 are significantly better than 3. It's kind of like the Spider-Man movies all over again. Okay, I'm gonna get a lot of people pissed at me, but I never played the original God of War trilogy. I only know the basic lore, that's it. The only experience I've had with this franchise is seeing other people play it. And it looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. So I made a promise to myself that if there were newer games of God of War, I would play them. I've been playing 2018 and Ragnarok, and fuck! They are awesome. The gameplay is not masterful, but it certainly is fun to play. I'm telling you man, the amount of times I've thrown the Leviathan axe in long distances just so I can summon it back was pretty common. And the Blades of Chaos and the Dropnir Spear were pretty fun to play with too. I will admit that there were some challenging enemies in both games, whether it's the Valkyries from 2018 or Gna from Ragnarok. Speaking of enemies, I think the boss fights in both games are pretty cool. The fights with Baldur, the Dragon, Magni, Modi, the Dark Elves, the Light Elves, Thor, Angrboda's grandmother, Nidhogg, the Phantom, Garm, Freya, the Bear, and Odin were great. Although I like both games, I feel like one game does something a little bit better than the other. I feel like 2018 has a much simpler story and it doesn't get needlessly complex unlike Ragnarok's story. On the other hand, I think Ragnarok does a good job of fleshing out some of the things that 2018 lacked, like the world building, the realms, character interactions, character arcs, and it gives some characters the spotlight. Characters like Brock, Freya, and Sindri noticeably get more screen time in this game compared to the last one, which is great because I really like those characters. Speaking of characters, Atreus and Mimir are definitely great characters on their own. Atreus goes through his own coming-of-age story in both games. Mimir serves as a great comic relief character, but also a character who is pretty knowledgeable on everything. I mean, he even says it himself.
Who are you?
Me? I'm the greatest ambassador to the gods, the giants, and all the creatures of the Nine Realms. I know every corner of these lands, every language spoken, every war waged, every deal struck. They call me Mimir, smartest man alive. And I have the answer to your every question.
But I feel like the best character is Kratos. This character has really come a long way from where he was in the original trilogy to where he is now, going from a rage-filled man with nothing to live for to a god that has softened over the years. And I know some people, specifically the creator of God of War, don't like how Kratos has been presented in these new games, but honestly, I like it. It really goes to show his development as a person, and I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with me on that. There's a lot to say about these new games, but I'll make it short and sweet. They're awesome, they're great, I like their stories, and I like their characters. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about Grand Theft Auto 5, so I won't spend much time talking about it. I played this game constantly when I was a kid, and I played it recently, and I still like it a lot. I still like the characters a lot, the world of Los Santos is pretty big, you can do basically whatever the fuck you want. I thought the story was alright, not perfect, but it's pretty good. And I'm not gonna mention GTA Online because I never played it. But man, this game alone really lived up to expectations, so let's hope that GTA 6 can beat it. Here are some of my favorite movies, animated and live action. I like the Shrek movies. I enjoy how they can be edgy and adult, something that Disney was incapable of doing. In fact, the whole concept of Shrek started off as one big fuck you to Disney, and I enjoyed every single minute of it. The first movie is a classic. It has great characters, some decent humor, and even the animation still looks pretty good, even though the story itself is pretty basic. The second movie improves on every single aspect of the first film. The old characters are better, the new characters are awesome additions, the world is much bigger, the comedy is much stronger, and the animation looks way better than the original. Also, the story's writing is much stronger in this one. And the third movie serves as a very satisfying end to the trilogy, even though it's just a wonderful life story, but it still has some of the raw emotion that the previous two films had. Oh, you didn't think I was talking about Shrek the Third, did you? No, I'm obviously talking about Shrek Forever After. As far as I'm concerned, Shrek the Third is not canon.
Say it with me now, kids. This movie is not canon. Thank you. Namaste.
But either way, this will age poorly considering that DreamWorks is making a fifth Shrek movie.
Why?
I don't know why, but hopefully it will be like Shrek 1 and 2 and not Shrek 3. The fake Shrek 3, not the real Shrek 3. Huh, another DreamWorks trilogy. Well, as of recording this video, Kung Fu Panda is another film trilogy I watched when I was a kid, and my feelings for this series is the same as I have for Shrek. The first movie was very strong. It has an awesome villain, a relatable protagonist, and some awesome kung fu, and even the story is pretty good too. The second movie is just like Shrek 2. It improves on every single aspect of the first movie. Well, kind of. Don't get me wrong, I love the story, Poe's character arc, Lord Shen is an intimidating villain, I like how dark it is, and I think the animation is pretty spectacular, but I honestly think the action was a bit better in the first movie. That's my only criticism. As for the third movie, it is honestly the weakest one of the trilogy. My issue with this movie is that it's too lightweight compared to the first two films. I mean, when it comes to film trilogies, you usually save the darkest one for last, but this one was too lighthearted in my opinion. And again, this feels null and void considering they're making a fourth movie that's coming out in March.
Why?
But I will admit, the animation is pretty top-notch. I love the father-son dynamic between Poe, his biological father, and his adopted father. Kai is a pretty great villain, and I would say this trilogy comes full circle. Think about it. Tai Lung was Shifu's villain, Lord Shen was Poe's villain, and finally Kai was Oogway's villain.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Which reminds me, who the fuck is this villain supposed to be attached to? Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. As it stands, I think this is a solid trilogy. For now. Are you really surprised? I love How to Train Your Dragon. And here's one thing that makes How to Train Your Dragon better than Kung Fu Panda and Shrek.
It's not getting another installment. Okay, they're making a live-action movie, but they're not making a fourth How to Train Your Dragon movie. Let's go through this really quick. The first movie, a goddamn masterpiece. The bond between Hiccup and Toothless is great, the flying is great, the montage is great, the animation is great, the final battle was great. Everything about this movie is just goddamn great. The second movie, just like Kung Fu Panda and Shrek, builds upon every single aspect of the first movie. We learn more about Hiccup's mother, there are many more dragons in this one, they expand the world, and the animation is great. But the villain was not all that great. He has a cool design, but he's not all that memorable. And as for the third movie, it is a great way to end the trilogy. Having Toothless and Hiccup go their separate ways to lead their separate tribes was a great way to end the series. I think Grimmel is a way better villain than Drago Bloodfist and that dragon from the first movie. The music is at its absolute best, the finale was fucking masterful, the relationships are pretty damn strong, and this is to date my favorite animated trilogy. And unlike Toy Story and Shrek, I don't have to worry about the company making another installment. Speaking of which... Man, I used to love Toy Story, until they made that piece of shit fourth movie in Lightyear, but we'll ignore those for the sake of this.
Are you sure about that?
The first Toy Story is great, it pretty much kickstarted the company. I can appreciate it for a first film, but I will admit I do like other Pixar movies like Inside Out to this, but that's just a me thing. Toy Story 2, like the other sequels I've talked about before, improves on every single aspect of the original, from its animation to its themes to its story to its characters and to its lore, and I can honestly say that it's one of my favorite sequels. Then there's 3. Okay, despite it being a carbon copy of the second movie, I can still appreciate it trying to go in a darker direction for the Toy Story movies, with them going to this daycare and trying to live on their own after Andy grows up. And I still think the ending of 3 is a way better send-off than what the hell they were doing with Toy Story 4.
Buzz, she'll be okay. Bonnie will be okay. You sure? Hey, listen to your inner voice.
Who wrote this shit?
Oh, and did I forget to mention that 4 is not even the true ending because they're making a 5th one?
Why?
It's really funny. People gave Blue Sky a lot of shit for making those Ice Age sequels, but nobody bats an eyelash when Pixar does it. You know what? I'm not gonna get into another rant. Let's just keep moving. This is another movie I used to watch a lot of times when I was a kid. I really enjoyed the relationship between Vanellope and Ralph. The different games that these characters would go through were fun to watch, whether it be Hero's Duty, Sugar Rush, or Fix-It Felix Jr. The animation is pretty great, and as a whole, I think it has a lot of heart and soul in it. This is easily my favorite animated Disney movie of the 2010s, but sadly, much like Toy Story, Shrek, and Kung Fu Panda, they made an unnecessary sequel called Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Shouldn't it be Ralph Wrecks the Internet?
Yeah, since he is Wreck-It Ralph. Yeah, but break the internet, it's like a thing.
Right, it's just Wreck the Internet kind of sounds better, doesn't it?
You're not wrong.
Just shut your fucking mouths. A movie that basically destroys everything that the first film set up. Remember how Ralph fought tooth and nail just to make sure that Vanellope could be in charge of Sugar Rush again? Well, guess what? She pretty much ditches Sugar Rush and goes into Slaughter Race.
That was pointless.
As if the shameless product placement and advertisements weren't enough to hate that movie's guts. This is easily my #1 favorite 2D Disney movie. The dark tone, the animation, the music is good and catchy, the characters are unforgettable, and it has a beautiful message attached to it. But this movie is not without its flaws. I find it weird how it has slapstick comedy in a movie that takes itself pretty seriously. Their gargoyles are without a doubt the worst parts of the movie, and their piece of shit musical number makes me want to damage my eardrums.
Manja above, she's gotta love a guy like you.
But even with its flaws, I can still enjoy the movie for what it is. As I said before, this is easily my favorite 2D Disney movie. This would have to be my second favorite 3D Disney movie, and that's because I relate to it so heavily. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about this movie. It's considered by many to be an underrated classic, and I can definitely see why. I think the time travel aspect is well thought out, the theme and message really speak to me, the characters are believable and relatable, and overall it's a movie that can speak to a lot of people, especially with its message of never giving up and always moving forward.
Look, I'm sorry your life turned out so bad, but don't blame me, you messed it up yourself. You just focused on the bad stuff when all you had to do was let go of the past and keep moving forward.
And that's a quote by Walt Disney that I still live by. I had that as a quote from my high school yearbook. There are some weak elements to the movie. I would say the animation is a little dated, and the message can be a little on the nose, but it's still a pretty good movie. It's a Disney classic. This is my second favorite 2D Disney movie, and that's just based on how fucking hilarious this movie is. Each and every single character is funny and enjoyable to watch. The 2D animation still holds up to date, the jokes hit one after another, there are some legendary memes in here, the acting is spectacular, and overall it is one of Disney's hilarious movies.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting all funned out.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Yep.
Sharp rocks at the bottom?
Most likely.
Bring it on.
This is something because Disney movies are not known for being hilarious. They're known for being heartwarming, charming, endearing, inspiring, but never knee-slappingly funny, you know? Well, this is a movie that still makes me laugh even to this day. Okay, this is the most recent film on my list. Well, there's two more, but this is the first most recent movie that I'm talking about. And wow, this movie was goddamn awesome. I didn't expect a sequel to Puss in Boots to be this great. Even cynical bastards like EFAP and Your Movie Sucks like this movie. And there's a reason for that. The animation is brimming with personality. The characters are more fleshed out in this movie compared to their predecessors. The sidekick dog was endearing and funny.
What's your name? Oh, I've been called all kinds of things. Dog, bad dog, stupid dog. Hey you! You there! Get out! Leave it! Drop it! Big rat, small pig, rat face, butt nugget, for brains, you know, that sort of thing. But I'm in the mix now! Okay, here we go. You're all a bunch of knuckle-dragging, honey-scrounging, grub oafish munching, mangy nugget, and you're snooter!
I like the cut of his jib.
That's hilarious.
The villains were great, from Def to Jack Horner and to Goldie and the Three Bears. The jokes are pretty strong, and I like how this movie is darker compared to the first one. This isn't your grandpa's Puss in Boots, this is a new Puss in Boots. And I'll say this, if they're making a third movie, please let it have the same writing as this. Don't drop the ball, please be consistent, and please be great. I said please like 4 times. Please, don't fuck it up. Yeah, I had to put these movies on the list, but I like them for very different reasons compared to everyone else. Everybody thinks that these movies are masterpieces, from the animation, to the story, to the characters, to the music, to the action, to everything. And I agree with some of those points. I love the animation. It's so great that most TV shows and movies are using that same animation style. The music is pretty catchy, the action is pretty great, and the characters are likable. But the story has always been the weakest element of these films, especially in the first movie. The first one has a very generic story, but the animation does make up for it. And as for the second movie, I will agree I did like some story beats and some character arcs, but to be brutally honest, the story in that movie is a mess.
I hope you get doxxed.
But I won't go into it in this video because I don't want people roasting me in the comments. Just know that I like both of these movies, despite how lackluster their stories can be. I mean, is this really a shock to you guys? I made a best Pixar list and this movie took number 1. And does it deserve to be number 1?
Yes, it does.
I could sing the praises of this movie till the cows come home, but I'm pretty sure you guys know how much I feel about this. It is honestly one of Pixar's most perfect films, no doubt. I love the romance between Wall-E and Eve, the animation still looks crisp even though it came out in 2009, and I still love Wall-E as a character. And overall, this movie is a goddamn masterpiece, and anyone who says it's not needs to shut the fuck up.
One movie that should never have been made.
Wall-E.
What?
Wall-E, the Disney one? It's
Why?
so dumb.
Say, can you do me a favor? You see that fire extinguisher there?
Another Pixar classic. I still really love this movie. Maybe not on the same level as Wall-E, but goddamn is it close. I recommend Shay Frillis' video on Ratatouille, because he does a great job breaking down this movie and its excellence. The best superhero movie of all time. Even the ones I love like the Sam Raimi trilogy, Infinity War, and No Way Home don't hold a candle to this movie. I still think that this is a great satire of superhero movies, something that the sequel clearly forgot. Still not salty. I really like the characters in this one. The action scenes are still cool, even though the animation looks like garbage. Okay, calling it garbage is a little harsh, but it doesn't look good. Each character, from the Incredibles themselves to Frozone to Syndrome, is incredibly well written. The music slaps harder than a truck, Miss Incredible is still thick. And the story is just so much better than what they did in the sequel. Like, Jesus Christ, you guys had 14 years, what the fuck? Another Pixar classic, give it a watch. Yes, these movies are incredibly cheesy. Yes, it is stupid that a killer doll is considered a threat to humans, but I still think the first two Child's Play movies are great. The puppetry on Chucky looks great, Alex Vincent does a great job in both movies, and the finale of both films was awesome to watch. But again, these movies are incredibly cheesy, but still enjoyable. Now let me give you my thoughts on the later films. 3 is pretty mediocre, because they're just dragging it out at this point. 4 and 5 are just really bad comedies. And 6 and 7, they exist. The show is pretty good though, I'll give it that. And if you want to know my ranking, it goes Child's Play 2, Curse of Chucky, Child's Play 3, Bride of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, and finally, Seed of Chucky. I know I've shitted on this movie franchise in my Saw X review, but you know what? It is a funny ass comedy. The first one is genuinely great, even though it has its flaws, but the sequels really make it a hilarious ride.
If you want to watch all the Saw movies, I recommend you watch it with EFAP. They make the ride incredibly enjoyable to watch. And in case you want to know what my ranking is like, it would go 1x6 3D 5 Jigsaw 4 2 3 Spiral. Like the first Saw movie, these movies are very cheesy. But you know what? For all of their cheesiness, bad effects, and corny acting, I love these movies very much. Even the infamous third movie. But to be quite frank, I take the first two pretty seriously because I think they're really great. Green Goblin and Otto Octavius are great villains. I really like Harry and Peter's friendship throughout the films, and I think Tobey Maguire is a great Spider-Man. Second place easy. Maybe third? The action scenes, although very spotty, are still pretty awesome. The train scene from the second movie, the balcony scene from the first movie, and even 3's final battle was awesome, even though it was totally convoluted and way too overstuffed. There's also the fight with Otto Octavius at the bank, the fight with Sandman in the subway, the fight with Green Goblin at the end of the first movie, there's the wrestling match, and there's the fight between Harry and Peter. There were plenty of good fight scenes now that I think about it. J. Jonah Jameson was awesome in all three movies, played by the wonderful J.K. Simmons.
But could you pay me in advance?
You serious?
And yeah, these two movies were great. Even though 3 is a massive downgrade, you can still laugh at it for how stupid and goofy it is.
My son thought the world of this guy.
I have a 9-year-old daughter who loves Spider-Man. Who's she supposed to look up to now?
This is the guy that gave the key to the city to?
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
You see, there are lots of chuckle-worthy moments in here, but if there's one glaring issue with the original Spider-Man trilogy, it's Mary Jane herself. Easily the worst element. I fucking hate this bitch. But these movies are still great as long as you ignore her, which is pretty hard to do. Another movie trilogy that is pretty damn cheesy, but I love it very much. And much like Spider-Man, I love the first two movies, but found the third one to be pretty iffy. The characters are iconic and memorable, ranging from Luke, Obi-Wan, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Leia, C-3PO, R2-D2, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, Lando Calrissian, Yoda, and Palpatine. Whew. These characters are either interesting, funny, likable, threatening, or go through compelling character arcs. If only characters from the sequel trilogy would know what that's like. The special effects are pretty impressive even to today's standards. The lightsaber battles in each of these movies are awesome. Yes, even the third movie, which has those teddy bear creatures. Okay, no, they're not called that. I think they're called Ewoks? Whatever, I don't know, I don't fucking care. Luke Skywalker goes through a really great character arc in the entire trilogy, and that's why he'll always be my favorite character. But although the original trilogy is great on its own, it has sadly been destroyed by the sequel trilogy, as the characters we've come to know and love get butchered and assassinated. And people thought that the prequel trilogy was bad. And let me tell you something, the prequel trilogy is fucking atrocious. But you know what? I'd rather sit through that trilogy than the sequel trilogy. Yeah, bitch and moan all you want in the comments, I don't give a fuck. So if you want to know what my ranking is like on all of the Star Wars movies, it goes like this. The Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, Phantom Menace, The Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, The Last Jedi, and finally, The Rise of Palpatine.
Rey Skywalker.
Palpatine.
You can't just take their name, you petulant celery stick fuck. You're standing at the dual sons fucking duck fuck. This isn't your name to take, you piece of shit.
Here are some of my favorite shows, animated and live action. I know TV shows that use laugh tracks tend to get a lot of grief, but I feel like Everybody Loves Raymond was one of the better shows. I've been binge watching this show recently, and I have to say, it's really consistent. Usually shows that run as long as Everybody Loves Raymond has tend to lose their steam. But this show is still going strong, even down to its 9th season. This show has jokes and punchlines that are funny. I really like the characters and the actors. Frank is easily my favorite character in the show, rest in peace. When there were emotional moments, they actually stuck. And all in all, I think this show has very solid writing. And who knows, maybe I might do a ranking video on it someday. Not anytime soon, but maybe later down the line. Here's a show that's basically the opposite of Everybody Loves Raymond. Everybody Hates Chris is a really great show. Similar to Raymond, the characters are really enjoyable to watch, even the titular lead himself. I got a ton of laughs out of just how outrageous this show can get.
You have 3 children, right?
Yes.
Can I have their father's names?
Their fathers? No. They have one father.
Do you know his name?
The plot lines are really enjoyable to see play out, and what's fascinating about Everybody Hates Chris is that it's one of those shows where I genuinely wanted to see more. The show only ran for 4 seasons, and I feel like there should have been at least a 5th season, but I'm okay with 4. You know what I'm not okay with? This show getting rebooted after all this time.
Why?
Why are they rebooting it? Just take after what Ray Romano said. Reboots don't work, so stop fucking making them. Okay, so for these next 2 shows, I'm not going to add much because I've already made videos talking about them. I love early Family Guy. The jokes were great, the cutaway gags were funny, the characters were lovable, and the storylines were not a jumbled nightmare. And although modern Family Guy is not as terrible as it once was, as I've been watching a couple of episodes and it's decent, I will always prefer the older episodes. Okay, now South Park is a show I still watch, and I will say the newer seasons are not terrible, and it feels like the show is getting back to its former glory, but I'll be truly honest, I'm a fan of the earlier years of South Park, back when it wasn't needlessly complicated to keep up with, especially since now they're making multiple movies for 2 streaming services. What the fuck? And as for the seasons themselves, they are very short. The most recent seasons only have like 6 episodes. Remember when the show used to have like 20 to 14 episodes? Yeah, I remember. The show isn't gut-bustingly funny anymore, but I still feel like it handles some modern-day trends very well. The commentary is still strong, and the characters stay consistent with who they are, which is an impressive feat considering the show's been around for like 26 years. If you want to hear me talk about South Park some more, check out my ranking video. Shameless plug, I know. I don't really have much to say about this. I just wanted to throw in The Simpsons because it felt kind of wrong to only talk about South Park and Family Guy, but not bring up The Simpsons. I still think the earlier seasons are the greatest. The later seasons are not horrible, but they're definitely snore-inducing. But hey, I think it's more tolerable to watch now. But if you really want to get into The Simpsons, I recommend you watch the earlier seasons and maybe check out the movie if you're curious. I remember watching this show a lot as a kid, and I can definitely see why. This show is pretty cool. Clarence, or Kick Buttowski himself, makes for an entertaining protagonist. Some of the shit this kid did was pretty insane. Seriously, watch this show. It's great. And hey, it's an episodic series, so you don't have to watch everything in order. Just pick a random episode and watch it. This is another show I haven't watched in a while, but I remember it being very good. The first 2 seasons were alright, but the last season is where things get really interesting. It's kind of a shame that Adult Swim canceled the show just when it was starting to get good. For some reason, the network is still making Rick and Morty, despite the decrease in quality, but just when this show is starting to get good, sorry, we're gonna have to cancel you.
That's fucking bullshit!
But it's not like it's completely unwarranted. Some of these episodes are genuinely fucked up. The 2 episodes I remember the most are Alone and Numb. Those episodes are really dark and depressing, and I think that's why I like it so much. Who knows, maybe I'll watch the entire series at a later date. I'm getting a kick out of Invincible. Every single episode I've been watching so far has been great. The action in the show is very top notch. It's interesting and violent as hell. The characters are 3-dimensional and fully fleshed out. Granted, it's not all that funny, but I still find it to be enjoyable to watch. The memes are goddamn glorious, and the story continues to get more interesting and interesting with each passing episode.
I cannot wait until March, man. And if you haven't seen Invincible, what the fuck are you waiting for? Go watch it. Now. Get Amazon Prime. Pirate the damn thing. Do what you gotta do.
Here's a fun fact about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've binge-watched the series from November to December. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and I have to say, after rewatching it, it lives up to the hype, plus. I mean, it does have issues on rewatch, but I still really enjoyed it. I love the characters, I love the humor, the action is still great, even though it's a little laggy, and the overarching storyline and lore is great.
If there's one thing I will say about Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's that it doesn't have good luck when it tries to branch out into other things. It made a video game, it sucked. It made a live-action movie, it sucked. It made a spin-off show, it wasn't as good as the original. So when I heard they were making a live-action show on Netflix, I was skeptical. But then again, Netflix made One Piece and that show got good reception, and when I first saw the trailer, I thought, hey, this could be promising.
But then the showrunners talked about how they got rid of Sokka's sexism, they made comments about Katara's nurturing nature, they're trying to make it the next Game of Thrones, and they got rid of Aang's adventurous spirit. This shit is gonna crash and burn. Similar to The Simpsons, I don't really have much to say about this one. I really liked SpongeBob SquarePants when I was a kid, and I've been rewatching earlier episodes and it still holds up pretty well. The movie is great and I honestly feel like it should have ended there.
Manager, this is the greatest day of my life!
Then Nickelodeon decided to keep it going and now the show is basically a shell of its former self.
I'm just a shell of my former self.
I hear you, Larry.
But the thing is, I've heard everybody say that the later seasons, specifically seasons 9 through 12, are not as bad as everyone says. Again, I haven't seen it, but from the few clips I've seen, it's not that bad. I do like the goofy animation. I think that looks nice, but that's about it. If you want to see other people's ranking on SpongeBob, go check it out.
Now this may shock you, but I really like Ed, Edd and Eddy. It's pretty similar to Everybody Hates Chris in that regard, except I feel like the show had a good run, and the movie did a good job of capping everything off, like the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
We did it, Double D! Everyone loves us! We're finally in, baby!
And it only took 130 episodes, 4 specials, and a movie, Eddie.
The show takes the most basic ideas and they go all the way with it. Like Adventure Time and Regular Show, the animation, although weird, is still pretty appealing to look at. The characters are unforgettable, for better or for worse, and if there's one thing I really like about this show, it's how violent it was. Reminds me of early Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry.
Little piggy went to market! Quack! win yet?
Another thing that this show did right was give punishment to characters that deserve it. I mean, not all the time, but for the most part, they did a good job. A very solid series. I've already talked about this show ad nauseum with my ranking video, so I'll keep it brief. It is a Cartoon Network classic. Great humor, great animation, great music, unforgettable characters, a solid movie, and a perfect way to end the series. Again, shameless plug, I know. Go check out my ranking video if you want to hear my thoughts on each episode and season. Similar to regular show, I've already talked about this series before, but I might have to update it because this show is coming back with a 7th season. It's unclear when it's coming out, but it's coming. And rest assured, if season 7 is coming out, I will review every single episode. And I'm only doing it because the show ended off on a cliffhanger, which is complete fucking bullshit. Alright, in summary, Gumball is just as great as regular show. The characters are great, the animation is outstanding, the emotion is great, the jokes are great, and the creativity is really great. Check out my ranking video or this guy's ranking video if you want. It doesn't really matter. What do you know? Cartoon Network's biggest icon of the 2010s. Now listen, I have some plans regarding this show. I want to talk about it on the same level I did for Gumball and regular show. I mean, I always talk about how much I love these 3 shows so much, so it's not fair that only Gumball and regular show got big videos while this show didn't get one. So I will try my best to make that video. It's not going to come out anytime soon, but I will work hard on making it. As for now, Adventure Time is a true masterpiece. That's all I'm going to say for now. Before Shrek, we had the Looney Tunes. These guys were basically everything that Disney wasn't. They were violent, they were off the wall, they were Looney Tunes. There are a couple of shorts I remember watching as a kid, and there were some cartoons I also remember watching as a kid, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Sylvester, Elmer Fudd, Yosemite Sam, Lola Bunny, not for obvious reasons, you sick fucks, and others. They're all awesome, and I'm glad we have those cartoons following these guys, but I will say that there is a cartoon duo that I love more than these guys, and here they are. I really love the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons. These shorts are funny as fuck. They are violent, they're crazy, they're awesome.
Hey, something is burning around here.
Gee, I'm throwing away $1 million.
But I'm happy!
I've always been more of a Tom and Jerry fan than a Looney Tunes fan, and can you really blame me? I'd argue that these two are more popular than the Looney Tunes, and if you don't believe me, watch a bunch of their shorts and you'll see why they're the best cat and mouse duo ever created. And that's it. Those are the things I like. If you guys have your own list, tell me in the comment section below. And I just want to say thank you guys for wishing me a happy birthday. I really appreciate it. Much love to every single one of you. And yeah, again, if you guys have your own list of some of the things you like, tell me in the comment section below. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later.